Good morning, everyone. I know it has been a little bit since I've made a video, and to be honest, I've been wanting to share an update, but I've also really glad this is handy. Not been doing great emotionally, mentally, and if you follow me on Instagram, you have a little bit of a understanding of why. But first, I want to say that through all of this, even on the really, really hard days, we are so blessed with the community that we have, and the church, and just everyone that has come together and prayed for us and have faith for this situation. It has encouraged us so much, and it means so much. So if you have been texting me, calling me, showing up to the house for, our prayer and worship night that we had, or just to spend time, it all has meant a lot, and I'm so thankful. I might be slow in responding, depending on the day I'm having, but just know it really does mean a lot. So after my anatomy ultrasound, I was like 18 and a half weeks at that point. Baby boys looked perfect. Everything looked great. Obviously, I've talked to you guys a little bit about the subchorionic hematoma that I have had throughout my entire pregnancy. Bleeding is still an issue. It's still quite large, and they can see it at that appointment. But other than that, everything looked great. Babies looked good, placenta looked good, everything looked perfect and healthy. Fast forward, I'm so sorry if I get emotional. I'm trying not to, but fast forward about 2 weeks. The very first appointment that I have ever gone to where I wasn't feeling stressed or anxious, just excited to see my baby boys. I get there with Alessia. Sammy is going to be with a client, but ended up surprising me and meeting me there, which so thankful. I got in for the ultrasound before he got there, and I could tell that there was something wrong. You could see on the screen it didn't look the way it was supposed to, and the ultrasound tech was very quiet, and she left the room and said the doctor will be in shortly. But even still, I wasn't stressed or anything. Sammy came in right after the ultrasound tech walked out, and I just said, hey, like, I could hardly see anything. It looks like there's not a lot of fluid. In my mind, I wasn't sure if that was normal. Maybe they're just squished in there because there's two. I also have maybe had 1 to 2 ultrasounds with all of my previous pregnancies. So we're like past 20 ultrasounds at this point. So I just was like, it just looked strange, but wasn't worried about it. The doctor comes in and says, have you noticed any fluid leaking? Because you have next to no amniotic fluid for both boys. And I was like, I don't know, like, I've been bleeding this whole time. I did end up losing some blood clots, the weekend before, and noticed more, but I have no idea if it's fluid, amniotic fluid, if it's just blood, if it's a mixture of both. Like, I have no clue. I've been dealing with this, for over 2 months now of actively bleeding every single day. So from there, she sent us to the hospital, which my delivering hospital is in Sacramento. So I really wasn't sure what to expect. I wasn't sure if I would be admitted. I wasn't sure, you know, what was going to happen. I called a friend to see if she could take Alessia to school for me, and then called my best friend, just a wreck, like, this is what the MFM doctor found, and now we're going to the hospital. And she had mentioned that at the hospital they would give me an exam, alluded to another ultrasound to check and see if they could find any pockets of fluid, and then also talk about delivering, which for me, I was 20 weeks at that point. I knew the babies weren't viable. So it was terrifying. We get to the hospital, they triage us, I'm in a bed, and the OB on call ends up coming into the room. She gives me a little bit of a physical exam. Won't get into details there. But because of my hematoma and because of the active bleeding, they can't accurately test to see if my waters have ruptured or broken or are leaking. So there are several scenarios that this could be. It could be, you know, my water bags are leaking or ruptured. It could be that my placenta is starting to fail. It could be that the boys' kidneys are not functioning the way that they are supposed to be. And because they can't pinpoint exactly what the issue is, they can't really treat me. And also because the boys are not viable at this point, their main concern is taking care of me. So even though my anatomy scan looked great, the boys have kidneys, bladders, everything looked good, they can't figure out what's wrong. And so the doctor recommended that it would be in my best interest to terminate my pregnancy. She let me know that most likely my boys would not survive. And even if they did, they wouldn't survive outside the womb. She said that if I chose to continue my pregnancy, I would most likely go into labor within 48 hours naturally and lose them that way. So it was a lot to take in, and I totally understand the doctor's perspective and just that their priority at that point is my health and protecting me. But everything was so cold. Zero chance that we were given that the boys would be okay. So ultimately she gave us 3 options. Go terminate your pregnancy and deliver, be admitted to the hospital just to be watched for possibility of infection, or just go home and wait. So we chose to go home. I remember just looking at Sammy across the room, and she's giving me all of this news, and I'm like, it felt like I had been transported to a different dimension. Like, how did we go from 2 weeks ago? Everything was perfectly fine. All of the fears and everything, we didn't have to worry about anymore. And I go into this appointment finally for the first time feeling so just excited, and leave there feeling absolutely crushed. Surreal experience. But we had another follow-up appointment 2 weeks later, and throughout this entire time, both boys have been doing good. They have been actively moving. Like, they even flipped presentations the other day, which I just found out about yesterday. They move and they kick so much, which I'm so thankful for. Their heart rates have stayed really steady. And they are growing, which is really encouraging. They are still small, but I tend to have small babies, so that part isn't a super big concern to me. With having little to no amniotic fluid, there are several things that are concerning. Their cords can be compressed, their limbs can be compressed and end up having issues there. Amniotic fluid plays a really big role in lung tissue development. So that's scary. It also, you know, as they grow, they start to swallow amniotic fluid, and that flushes kind of through their kidneys and their bladder and helps all of that function. So there's just a lot of things that we don't know right now if they're going to be okay. That's the reality of the situation. We also, you know, have so many stories and testimonies of people that have been through similar, if not exact, their babies, you know, were early or carried to term and were healthy. We are believing for a miracle. These boys are already a miracle. I was told, almost 3 weeks ago now, that we would probably not make it past 48 hours. And here they are, happy and moving around in there. But yeah, it's just been a lot to take in, and I'm so thankful, like I said, for the faith of our friends and family around us and others that have just messaged me on Instagram and found me, you know, through friends' posts and stuff like that. The encouragement is so huge. I would love to tell you that I have walked these last 2.5, almost 3 weeks out with so much faith and just absolutely believing that everything's gonna be okay, but I have struggled a lot. We do have a appointment this coming Monday where I will be 23 weeks and 6 days. So the day before I turn 24 weeks. From there, we are going to talk about all of the different possible scenarios and different interventions and different routes that we can take. So be praying for that. I really just want to see them growing and stay okay in there. So in the meantime, you guys, I seriously cannot thank you all enough. I might not respond right away. I am just trying my best right now, moment by moment, to get through every day. But encouragement means so much. So even if I don't respond, just know I'm so grateful, and I will do my best to get back to everyone as quickly and as soon as I can. I am just fighting to get through the day. But thank you for following along. Thank you for praying for these boys. I look forward to the day when I get to introduce them to everybody. And in the meantime, I'm just doing everything I can to keep them safe. So, thank you guys.